Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome for the first time if you're new here. Today's video is on the 9 things that I wish I knew when I started consuming cannabis. I started consuming cannabis when I was around 30 years old. I had recently been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, and I started consuming cannabis to try to help me deal with the symptoms of that disorder and to help me as a tool in learning to figure out the roots of my anxiety and deal with them so that I no longer experienced the symptoms that were kind of debilitating at that point. So I came to cannabis as an adult, and I have learned a lot about it as I've traveled along my own cannabis journey, learning about the product, about how it works for me, about how to use it intentionally in the best way possible to support my own health and well-being and my holistic wellness. This video is to help you understand cannabis better, to consider some of the parts of it that you might not have considered so that you can enhance your experience and avoid some of the pitfalls that I've encountered, and I'm sure that others have encountered as well. That being said, let's dive in. Number 1, terpenes are important. So when I first started smoking weed, I had no idea that terpenes were even a thing. I don't think I'd ever even heard of them before. And it wasn't until I had been consuming for a while and actually got into the industry that I started to hear about terpenes and about what they even were, let alone their own importance. So terpenes are the essential oil molecules of every plant. So every plant is going to have its own essential oils that it uses to either attract pollinators or to repel pests and predators and mold and things like that. So in the same way that, we're attracted to scents, animals, pollinators are attracted to scents. So plants use terpenes to draw in the pollinators as well as to repel certain pests. Like some terpenes are used in natural bug sprays, for instance, because certain insects don't like them. So when we consume cannabis, those scent molecules also interact with our bodies. We smell them in through our nose. They interact with the limbic system in our brain, and they affect our bodies physiologically. They can affect our mood. They can affect our memory. They can affect whether or not we feel sedated or uplifted, all kinds of different things. So many different effects. They can make us feel creative. They can make us feel energized. So it's important to understand that terpenes can absolutely and do absolutely impact your experience, especially when they're found in dried flower. When you understand terpenes and you understand how they work and their effects, you can make better consumption choices. If you're looking for a cannabis product that will uplift you, you're going to want to choose terpenes that are more uplifting, like limonene or terpinolene or ocimene, right? More uplifting terpenes. Whereas if you're looking for cannabis that's going to help you feel calmer, you're going to want to look for something that maybe has myrcene in it or linalool or beta-caryophyllene, something that's a bit more sedating. So I think there's over 100 different terpenes that naturally occur in the cannabis plant. There are lots. So understanding them and understanding their effects can impact your cannabis experience significantly and help you choose better products for the outcome that you're seeking. Now, I'll give you a little plug here. I'm actually working on a course right now that is a terpene expert certification course. And I'm putting this together with Flow Scientific, who is a terpene company. They make terpenes. And we are building a course that will be an experiential course. So there will be 12 different terpenes that you will be trained on. You will receive in the mail the terpene isolates and then a number of different blends. One is strain specific, one is not strain specific. It's just a blend of terpenes. And you will be given a series of, I believe it's 10 different lessons, might be 11 different lessons on that terpene that are spaced out over a number of weeks so that you can actually learn all about that terpene, learn how to identify it both on its own, in blends, in cannabis, in other products that are available, and learn everything that you need to know about the terpene to use it in your own personal consumption so that you can make the most informed and the best choices for your own personal experience. If you're interested in that course, it's currently still in the waiting list. We have not launched it yet, but I will include a link to the course in the description so that you can sign up for the waiting list and be the first to hear about it when it is launched. And then you can earn a terpene expert certification through that course. Point number 2, cannabinoid ratio matters more than amount. So we always hear about THC and CBD, and people are like high THC seekers, and they're like, oh, if it's not over 30% THC, I'm not consuming it or whatever, which is silly. But different cannabinoids have different effects and different impacts on our body. But the ratio of those cannabinoids to each other can significantly impact the effects that you're experiencing. For example, if you had a product that is just high in THC and doesn't contain any CBD, it's going to have a very strong and intoxicating experience. But if you take the same amount of THC and balance it with the same amount of CBD, and it's a 1-to-1 product, the effects are going to be very different. It makes the most sense if you think about it in terms of an edible. Let's say that you eat a 5 milligram THC edible. Well, the effects of that edible are going to be quite different than consuming an edible with 5 milligrams of THC and 5 milligrams of CBD. The CBD is going to balance the effects of the THC so that you don't experience them in the same way. THC and CBG is another ratio and combination that I really enjoy personally. I find THC on its own to be really quite sedating many times, but when I combine it with CBG, it somehow becomes much more uplifting, and it's a much more enjoyable experience for me. So understanding that combining the cannabinoids together will produce a whole new set of outcomes, and many times they'll be more enjoyable outcomes than just consuming one cannabinoid on its own. Everyone, of course, is different. Every consumer is going to have their own unique experience. So you're going to want to experiment with different cannabinoids and different ratios to figure out what your personal preference is. The third thing that I wish I'd known when I started smoking weed was that personal biology matters, right? We are each individual, unique beings. We all have our own genetics. We have our own metabolism. We have our own experiences. And that can affect your cannabis experience and your cannabis journey. Things like your age, your weight, any health conditions that you might have, previous experiences with substances, previous experiences with different drugs, like knowing what the headspace is like. These can all impact your cannabis experience. Your own personal experience is going to be unique, and the outcome is going to be unique. So it's really important to listen to your bodies and adjust your consumption according to what you need, right? And it's important to know that what your body needs in one moment to maintain balance is going to be different than what it needs in another moment. The role of the endocannabinoid system in our body, which is the part of our body, the receptors that interact with cannabis, the role of that system is to keep your body in homeostasis, to keep everything good in your body, to keep everything okay and copacetic and flowing. And the endocannabinoid system does this by facilitating communication through your various body systems that don't necessarily speak the same language. So because that's its role, and because it does that by communicating between body systems, that means that what you need in one moment is going to be different than what you need to maintain homeostasis in another moment. Your endocannabinoid system is constantly finding a balance. There's not one static, specific spot where you are balanced. Everything is moving all of the time within you, within your body, within your psyche, within your endocannabinoid system. So the way that cannabis interacts with you is going to be unique in that moment. And it is absolutely going to be unique from what somebody else is experiencing or what somebody else needs. When I first started smoking weed, my husband was the one who really introduced me to it. And I would just be like, oh, well, I'll just consume whatever you're consuming. That's fine. It's just weed. People be like, what kind of weed do you want? I'd be like, I don't know, just weed. And it wasn't until I learned about cannabis and about the endocannabinoid system and began to really pay attention to my own experiences that I learned that just because somebody else is smoking something or consuming something does not mean that that's what I need in that moment to feel my best, right? And like, I pride myself on being able to throw down with the best of them. Like, I can sit at a table with you and take 18 dabs to the face and walk away from the table, but I'm not going to feel good if I do that, right? I would feel my best after maybe 1 or 2 dabs instead. So instead of saying I can do what everybody else does, I can do the same thing, or I can hang. Instead, it's about understanding that it's your body, right? You've got to find your own sweet spot here. You've got to make sure you're understanding your unique biology's impact on your cannabis use and consumption, right? So don't go into the experience expecting it to be like anybody else's. It's your experience. Keep a journal, keep track of what you're consuming and what the outcomes are, because that's going to give you the best information versus looking at what somebody else is doing. That's not going to give you a lot of information. The fourth thing that I wish I knew when I started smoking weed was that mindset is important. Okay, your mindset refers to your mood and your set of expectations going into your cannabis experience, right? So if you are going in with a garbage mood and you don't expect anything good to happen, then it probably won't. But if you are going in with a mindset that says like, hey, I'm not feeling great right now and I'm going to consume some cannabis like mindfully and intentionally, and then I'm going to feel better, then you're a lot more likely to feel better, right? Like mindset is crucial for any experience. When you go into a cannabis experience with a specific intention in mind, like I want to be more creative, I want to feel more focused, I want to feel relaxed, I want to connect with my partner more easily, right? That actually allows you to then engage more mindfully and in a way that is more likely to help you achieve that outcome. If you want to have a more positive mindset, think about engaging in things like meditation or journaling before you consume, where you sit down and you really think about, okay, like what are my intentions for this cannabis experience? Like, why am I doing this? How am I feeling? What am I going to consume? And then note afterwards if your experience changed, if you feel different, if you feel better, if you feel worse, right? Like how were you impacted by this product and by this experience? Because that will also help you have a better mindset in the future when you know more about what to expect. I've got a video for you on 9 mindsets that cannabis can help with and that can impact your experience as well, that you can check out as well if you're interested in that. I'll put it up here for you on the video so that you can watch it when you're done with this one if that's something that you're interested in, thinking more about your mindset going into a cannabis experience. Here's an example about how mindset can really impact your experience. I was with a group of friends the other day and I was already feeling a bit anxious. There were some things going on and it's an anxious time to be alive on the planet. And they were smoking weed. So I just also started smoking weed and didn't think about it. Wasn't intentional about it. I didn't consider my own mindset going into the experience. And about half an hour later, I realized I was actually feeling more anxious than I had been before we'd even started consuming, right? And so, I mindfully told my friends, like, this is what's going on. And then we talked about it and then I felt a bit better and someone got me some CBD and that helped as well. But because I wasn't paying attention to my own mindset going into the experience, I ended up feeling worse, right? Whereas if I had said to myself, your mindset is not in the place that you need to be consuming this high THC strain with your friends, like don't do it, I would have had a better experience. I could have, maybe chosen a different product. I could have started with CBD instead of starting with the high THC product. I could have just said, I'm not feeling so great. I don't know. It just might make me feel a little bit more anxious. And my friends would have been like, yeah, of course. It's not a big deal. Right. So it's about being really aware of yourself, aware of where you're coming from, aware of how you're feeling going into that experience. It's about self-awareness. Being self-aware is the most foundational part of wellness. It's actually where wellness starts, is in self-awareness, because when we are aware of how we're feeling and where we're coming from and our own mindsets and our own expectations and our own mood, it sets us up for more success in life because we are starting in a more intentional place by being aware of where we're at when we start. Right? So that's number 4. I wish that I had realized how much mindset makes a difference when you're consuming cannabis. And that leads right into number 5, which is that your consumption setting also makes a difference, right? You've maybe heard about set and setting, before. Well, set refers to your mindset, and setting refers to the consumption environment in which you're consuming whatever this product is. So different environments can affect your experience, right? If you're consuming a product at home, alone, in a very relaxed setting, it's going to be quite different than if you're consuming that exact same product in a busy social setting. If you're at a party, right, that'll be a different experience versus being in nature. I could consume the same product in those 3 different consumption settings, and I could have a different experience each time because my setting is different. You're going to have different perceptions. You're going to have a different perspective. You're going to have different encounters. You're going to have different thoughts, right? So understanding that your consumption setting matters can make a big difference. You want to think about creating a comfortable space for yourself, wherever you are, whatever that looks like. If you're comfortable at home, great, that's easy, right? Think about your lighting. Think about the music that you're listening to. Think about having comfortable items like a nice soft blanket to make your experience more relaxing. Versus if you want to consume for creativity and you're going to work in your home office or the office, out your office, like down, if you have a downtown office, maybe you have a downtown office because you're fancy. And so you're going to work in your downtown office and you want to consume before you go into the office, right? You want to think about what you want that to be like. What music is going to help you work and focus after you've consumed this product? So what does a comfortable space look like for you based on your intention for that experience? Think about that, right? You don't want to make it an uncomfortable space for yourself. So think about what comfort's going to look like for you. Another part of setting is considering the social dynamics, right? The company that you keep can certainly alter the effects and the experiences. If you're smoking weed with people you can't stand, you're not going to have as good of a time. That's, I guess, true for anything. It's not just about smoking weed. If you're doing anything with people you can't stand, you're not going to have as good of a time, right? But if you're with a person who makes you anxious, then maybe it's not the right time to consume weed. Wait till you're with people that make you feel relaxed. Right? If you're at a party and you have a lot of social anxiety, you may not want to try a high limonene strain because it can exacerbate your anxiety, right? So consider the company that are going to be around you as you're consuming weed. Also consider the attitudes of the people that you're with towards cannabis, right? Like if you're consuming a product for some intentional outcome and then you're with people who don't approve of you consuming it all, but you smell like weed, that might make your experience less enjoyable. You might have a harder time achieving the outcome that you're looking to achieve because you're now feeling a bit anxious, a bit judged, maybe a little bit paranoid, whatever it is. So keep in mind that the people that you're with can significantly impact your experience as well. The 6th thing that I wish I knew when I started consuming cannabis was that the highest THC isn't automatically the best. Like we're kind of conditioned to think that when something has a higher number, then it's better. But higher levels of THC are not always synonymous with a better experience, right? Sometimes you end up with an experience that's either overwhelming or underwhelming because you're lacking other cannabinoids or terpenes weren't really considered in the growing of the product. So it's got a low terpene content, right? Other cannabinoids like CBD and CBG are going to play a crucial role in the outcome of your experience. And terpenes are really going to help you get the kind of experience that you want to, whether it's uplifting or creative or sedating or whatever it is. Terpenes play a crucial role in effects. It's not just highest THC that will give you the best experience, right? I've had products that have over 30% THC in them and they smoke like crap. The ash is black. It's unenjoyable. You cough the whole time. It tastes bad and you don't even get that high versus a product that maybe has 20 to 22% THC, but that has like 6% terpenes in it. And that you enjoy, you consume it and you're like, man, this is enjoyable. I feel high. Like I feel so altered right now, right? Because you got something that was lower in THC, but actually had the quality compounds in it that impact your experience. Terpenes, flavonoids, volatile sulfur compounds, right? Like all of these other molecules, these other compounds that are included in cannabis beyond just THC. So just because something says it's high in THC, it does not automatically mean it's the best, right? And if you're interested in learning more about that, I have another video for you on why high THC weed is not necessarily the best weed at all. because lower THC products often are better consumption experiences than high THC products, because the producer of that product actually thoughtfully considered many different parts of the plant and not just high THC. They didn't just grow something to express high THC, right? They actually cared about the other compounds and grew a product that expressed the other compounds as well. The seventh thing that I wish I knew when I started smoking weed was that cannabis is an agricultural product. And it's not that I didn't know it, it's just that I never really thought about it, because I started consuming cannabis before it was legal. And the person that I bought it from would bring it to me in these little jars. They were like just little glass jars. I would buy like a half quarter at a time. And then I would open up the glass jar. I would smell it. I would be able to see the product through it. I could touch it if I wanted to, right? And now, here in Canada at least, everything that's sold on the regulated market has to be sold inside a package that you can't even see inside, right? All you have left, all that you can use to evaluate it is what's written on the packaging, which is cannabinoid content and maybe terpenes if you're lucky. But cannabis is an agricultural product, right? When we purchase an agricultural product at the store, when you purchase produce at the store, you want to see how fresh it is. You want to smell it. You want to, touch it. You might listen to it. You might thump it if it's a melon, right? You might consider the cultivation methods. Is it organic? If that's important to you, how was it grown? Was it in living soil? So there are all of these different components that we consider when we're purchasing an agricultural product that we should be able to consider when we're purchasing weed, but it can be very challenging in some markets. Other markets, like for instance, when I go to visit my family in Michigan, they have deli style shopping. So I can go to the weed shop and I can say, I want to smell that one in that jar. And they can open up the jar or open up the package and let me smell it. They can let me look at it. So I have more quality indicators to understand and evaluate the product that's inside that package. If you are able to do so, you would really want to think about supporting local growers and dispensaries in the same way that you would support local agricultural growers like at a farmer's market, right? It's similar. If you have the option to purchase weed that was grown locally by a local grower, maybe upstream in a vertically integrated dispensary, do it, because it's an agricultural product and you're purchasing something that had a shorter time to market, and you can learn more about the quality indicators in that type of purchase, right? You can learn more about their growing practices. Are they organic? What kind of soil do they use? What kind of fertilizers do they use? You're more likely to be able to speak to a local grower in this case. So cannabis is an agricultural product and it should be purchased like an agricultural product. Not possible in every marketplace, of course, but that's something that we can work towards as a society. And if it is available to you, take advantage of it. The eighth thing I wish I'd known when I started consuming cannabis was that cannabis can hurt or help. It's all about balance. Okay, so cannabis can absolutely aid in relaxation and creativity and focus and all kinds of different things. But there are also risks that are associated with it, especially if it's overconsumed, right? So some potential downsides are anxiety. You can get increased anxiety if you're overconsuming weed, absolutely. Dependence. You can start to become dependent on cannabis. You need it to sleep. It can be very challenging to relax without it, right? And in rare cases, we see things like cannabis hyperemesis syndrome for people who are genetically predisposed to this kind of a condition, in which consuming any THC makes these people feel really, really sick, and they just throw up when they consume any kind of THC, right? So the importance of moderation cannot be overstated. There are so many potential downsides that come with cannabis that is not used in moderation, right? Certainly there have been times in my life where I have consumed cannabis in excess. I have smoked as much weed as I possibly could because I was stressed out. I wanted to dissociate. I wanted to not think about the world, myself, and my challenges, and I did not want to work on myself. I just wanted to get away from myself. And as a result, I became more and more tolerant of cannabis, and that I needed more and more of it to feel the same effects. It stopped working as well for me. And I started to feel increased anxiety when I consumed it because I was over consuming THC. So it was at that point that I realized I really needed to learn to balance this a little bit better. The cannabis is a really powerful and helpful tool, but you got to use it in moderation, and you got to use it with balance, and you've got to use it in a way that supports your overall wellness. Right? It's never going to be a panacea. It's never going to be a magic pill for you. You're never just going to smoke a joint and have all your problems go away. And in fact, if you overconsume, it can cause more problems. So you want to make sure that you're enjoying cannabis while maintaining a balanced lifestyle. It's not about using cannabis to do everything in your life. It's not the tool for everything. You have to do some of the work too. If you're using cannabis as a tool to treat your anxiety, to treat your mood, to treat your lack of focus, whatever it is, it can help, but you have to use it as a tool to help you while you're doing the work. Okay? If you want it to help, you've got to find the balance. And the 9th thing that I wish I knew when I started consuming cannabis is that it is a powerful tool when it's used with intention. When you approach cannabis use with purpose, with an intention, whether it's stress relief, whether it's social enjoyment, creative inspiration, whatever it is absolutely an incredibly powerful tool when it's used with that, when it's used in that way. And when I first started using weed, I never considered it as a tool. I never thought of it as, oh, this is going to be a tool that I use in my wellness journey, in my journey towards better mental wellness and physical wellness and social wellness and spiritual wellness. Like, it is a powerful tool on every dimension of being a human, but you've got to be intentional about it, and you've got to use it with that purpose in mind, right? It's the same way, like, I could say a marker is a tool. A marker can be a tool for leaving a message. It can be a tool for making a sign. It can be a tool for coloring my face if I don't have any makeup with me or something. But if I don't have an intention for what I'm going to do with it, it's just going to sit here. It's not going to do anything. It doesn't do anything on its own. It's about the way in which I use it. Any tool is like that, right? You can't just expect a tool to get up and start doing things. If I have a hammer, I can't expect the hammer to get up and start banging nails into the wall by itself. I have to use it purposefully. Cannabis is the exact same way, right? This is why it's so important to set intentions with your own consumption. When you go into the experience, whatever it is, and saying, I'm using cannabis as a tool for this purpose, for this intention, then it becomes a very powerful tool. But until you set that intention, until you have that purpose in mind, the tool does nothing. It does not help in any way because you have not used it for that purpose. Okay, so this is why you want to use a consumption journal. Think about every time you consume weed, why am I doing this? Even if you don't keep a journal, just in mind, like, have it in mind before you approach a cannabis consumption experience. Keep it in mind. Like, what am I doing this for? What am I looking to achieve? What is the outcome that I'm seeking here? Right? That is what's going to help you use cannabis as powerfully as possible. Because you're saying, I'm using it for this purpose. And then you can say, oh, did this product work as well as I wanted it to? Nope. Okay. Let me find a product that's better. And then you try the next product. You say, okay, that one was better, but I still think I could tweak this part of it. And then you try a third product and you go, oh, wow, that one really did what I wanted it to. Now you're dialing in the tool for the thing that you want to use it for, right? So cannabis is absolutely powerful. It is a powerful tool when it's used with intention. So those are the 9 things that I wish I knew before I started smoking weed. I would love to know, what are some things that you wish you knew before you started consuming cannabis? Because that would be super interesting for me to know. I'd love to hear about it. So please share your experiences and your insights in the comments, and let me know what you think about these 9 insights and if they resonate with you as well. If you liked the video, if you thought it was interesting or useful, please give it a thumbs up. That absolutely helps me out. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content on intentional cannabis use and insights. And that's it. Yeah, thanks. So until next time, take care of yourself and Stay curious.